Now, one thing I'll hear people say sometimes is, how come a fish tank or a fish pond needs a filter? Whereas in the wild, there'll be various ponds and so forth that don't appear to be filtered, that seem to healthily and happily house fish. Now, that's all completely relative to the bioload, so the amount of fish that can be kept in a little environment like this. So a little environment like this also may not be a completely closed ecosystem, because there may be periodically water running in or running out of this sort of environment. So water changes are definitely a natural phenomenon in something like a little pond or lake. The other thing is that there's going to be heaps of bacteria. So the sand or the substrate is going to grow heaps and heaps of bacteria. Also, the algae is going to suck up heaps of nutrients, and then any rocks or debris that are in the environment are also going to grow heaps of bacteria. So all this bacteria is all capable of breaking down fish waste, and then any food that may become available for the fish that may live in here, insect larvae, algae, or anything else, or small fish, anything else that are going to be a food source. So the things that are going to count is, what are the animals going to have to eat? That's going to limit the amount of animals that can grow in a certain environment. And then the oxygen capacity. So like, for example, this is getting wind and a little bit of movement in here. And this is going to help to oxygenate the water and raise the redox potential. You'll also see the lapping here. And the lapping here will create a really beautiful wet and dry environment for nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria to grow. So realistically, if you look at a pond environment like this, which might have a few little fish scooting around in it, it's actually a perfect environment. So it's all relative to the amount of stock. So if there's not many fish buzzing around in here, it's going to work perfectly. But the limiting factors will be the amount of oxygen, which the surface area and the ruffling surface area from the wind is going to help. It's going to be the photosynthesis is going to help the dissolved oxygen as well. So the capacity of the water, the dissolved oxygen level, the redox potential, the amount of good bacteria and so forth that can grow in this environment, and the food sources. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to give this environment a capacity. And then as long as the amount of fish that are living in this environment don't exceed the capacity, then it will be very, very healthy. If there ends up being too many fish in this environment, then some of these fish are going to die off. Now, what tends to happen is, in a fish tank, if a fish dies off, it can actually pollute the environment. So if you've got a little pond and one of your fish dies in the pond, then the fish will tend to pollute their own environment, and then they will end up killing the other fish. Whereas in a natural environment like this, what tends to happen is a fish gets sick, and then it will become lethargic, and then a bird or something will usually quickly pick it off. So dying fish in a natural environment is not really a thing, because they become a food source for opportunist predators basically straight away. So anyway, the long and short of it is, the ocean has got a huge capacity to absorb and use nutrients, and even a little pond has got a surprisingly large capacity to use nutrients. Therefore, as long as there is less bioload in the environment, then the capacity to use the bioload, then it'll be a healthy and happy environment. So it's just basically something to think about for your fish tank, is if your fish tank has not too many fish in it, then you'll be well under the capacity, and what you need to do with the tank will be very minimal. On the other hand, if you're going to stock the tank or pond up very heavily, you're going to need lots of filtration, and you're going to need to feed a lot more, and you're going to have to do a whole lot more water changes and a whole lot more maintenance to keep those animals alive.